He secretly reactivated my parents' police code without anyone knowing. My sister, Gu Tamu, and my girlfriend, Su Lujiao, who had once sworn to love me for a lifetime, were still in the dark, waiting for my 100th apology to that poor college student. They had planned to confess on the day of my apology, revealing that all their favoritism towards him was just to repay a life-saving debt. A month after I was supposed to take office, they would be cheerfully cooking, waiting for me to come home. They would tell me that they no longer had to show favoritism to anyone and could live happily as before. But what awaited them instead was the news of my death. Under the brilliant sunlight, the tombstones in the martyrs' cemetery stood tall, solemn, and silent. I placed a bucket down, tears welling up as I looked at the black and white photos of my parents. Captain Sai of the city's criminal investigation team, his usual cheerful expression gone, spoke in a cold, stern voice. Are you sure you want to reactivate the police code? Your parents were heroes who died for the country. They died without regret, but as parents, they certainly wouldn't want you to follow the same path. Besides, if your sister and girlfriend found out, they would never agree. Uncle Shai, I understand the principle of country before family better than anyone, I said, my voice firm and my expression unwavering. You also know I've always looked up to my parents as role models, determined to dedicate myself to the country and society. You even helped me with my application to the police academy. You should understand me best. After a moment of thought, Captain Sai sighed. If you've made up your mind, I won't try to dissuade you anymore. An undercover officer must keep their identity a secret. All of your current identities can no longer be used. I'll arrange a fake death to make this identity of yours disappear from the world completely. Be prepared and wait for my notice. With my wish granted, the heavy stone in my heart lifted. I bowed to my respected uncle and slowly left. When I returned home, the usually quiet living room felt especially tense. My sister, Gu Tamu, and my girlfriend, Su Lujiao, sat on the sofa with grim expressions. Song Yifan, his hair a messy bird's nest, was tearfully recounting his side of the story. Seo Gu, Miss Su, please don't blame Mr. Gu. I know he didn't mean to cut my hair like this. It was my fault for making him angry, so he took it out on me. Seeing his aggrieved act, Su Lujiao's gaze grew colder, her voice filled with anger. You don't need to defend him. Timu and I know his spoiled temper best. We will definitely get justice for you today. Gu Tanwu chimed in, looking at me coldly with a stern voice. Hu Yibai, look at the mess you've made. Apologize to Yifan. Now, seeing the fleeting look of triumph on Song Yifan's face, I remained silent. I hadn't seen Song Yifan in days, so how could I have suddenly cut his hair? It was another one of Song Yifan's framing schemes. But I didn't explain, because I knew that no matter how clumsy the accusation, as long as it came from Song Yifan, my sister and girlfriend would believe it. Sure enough, seeing my silence, Gu Tanwu grew even angrier. You are unbelievable. Lu Jiao, hold him down for me. I looked at them in disbelief. Before I could say anything, Su Lujiao had her men restrain me, while Gu Tanwu picked up a pair of scissors and, without hesitation, snipped off a lock of my hair. As my hair fell to the ground, I felt a sharp pain in my heart. I remembered when we were young, Gu Tanwu clumsily brushing my hair, saying, I'm your big sister. I'll always take care of you. After our parents died, it was just the two of us. My sister, Gu Tanwu, raised me single-handedly, showering me with love. At 15, she introduced me to Su Lujiao, her best friend. It was love at first sight for Su Lujiao, who waited until I came of age before eagerly confessing and becoming my official girlfriend. From then on, I had two women who loved me unconditionally. They spoiled me in every way, with one exception. Fearing I would follow in our parents' footsteps, they forbade me from applying to the police academy. But I secretly applied anyway, and studied for 4 years, hoping one day to reactivate my parents' police code. Now that I had graduated, I still didn't know how to tell them about my job. Until Song Yifan appeared. I realized I didn't need to say goodbye to them anymore. Song Yifan was a poor student sponsored by the Gu group. The group sponsored hundreds of poor students annually, but Song Yifan was the only one who came to our house to express his gratitude. Not only that, but he also found a way to work at the Gu group and grew closer to Gu Tamu and Su Lujiao. From our first meeting, I disliked Song Yifan. I felt he was manipulative, and his later actions proved it. He not only liked to play the victim and frame me countless times but also stole my credit. During the earthquake last year, Gu Tamu and Su Lujiao thought Song Yifan had saved them at great risk, and they had doted on him ever since. But I was the one whose legs and arms were cut by rocks, whose bones were broken by falling debris while saving them. I had simply passed out from exhaustion after getting them to safety, allowing Song Yifan to take the credit. Being framed again and again had worn me down, so I didn't even plan to tell them about reactivating our parents' police code. But I never expected that for a few false words from Song Yifan, they would be cruel enough to cut my hair. As the hair fell, Su Lujiao let go, and Gu Tamu threw the scissors down. They then went to comfort Song Yifan and take him out to eat, never once looking back at me. Seeing their departing figures, I slumped down amidst the scattered hair and laughed bitterly. The next morning, as soon as I opened my door, I saw Gutamu and Suluojo waiting, frowning at me. Stop throwing your childish tantrums. Yifen is our family's savior, you have to treat him well. You've always been the one we love most. Being nice to him is just our way of repaying his kindness. Don't be so needlessly jealous. I had grown tired of hearing these words over the past year. He softly mouthed a number, 95. The two women looked at each other and said in unison, what 95? I looked at them quietly, my voice as placid as water. Gutanmu, Suluojo, this is the 95th time you've hurt me for Song Yifen. When it reaches the 100th time, the person you claim to love most will truly be gone. Suluojo and Gutamu's faces turned pale. Nonsense, don't say such unlucky things. He smiled faintly, my voice sincere. I'm not kidding. Gutamu, still thinking I was just being difficult, frowned slightly. You're well protected by me and Luojo now. Who would dare touch you? What could possibly happen to you? Where did you go so late last night? Suluojo asked, sensing something was wrong. Just as I was about to speak, the phone rang. Seeing it was Song Yifen, Gutamu quickly answered. Soon, his aggrieved voice came from the other end. Seo Ge, I tried my best to please Mr. Ge, but he still won't forgive me. If that's the case, I have no choice but to leave. My resignation letter is on your desk. I'll be going back to my hometown today. Goodbye. Hearing this, both women panicked and rushed to the company. Watching their hurried figures disappear, I laughed self-deprecatingly and returned to my room. I packed up all my belongings and threw them into the trash one by one, a couple's watch from Gutamu, matching outfits from Suluojo, a group photo of the three of us. I kept nothing. After a busy day, Suluojo and Gutamu returned in the evening with Song Yifen. The moment they saw me, their faces turned cold, and they started yelling. Why did you send people to throw paint on Yifen's house? He has nowhere to live now and was forced to resign. If Luojo and I hadn't persuaded him, he would have really gone back home. How long are you going to cause trouble? You used to be so obedient. Why did you change so much after Song Yifen appeared? Was I the one who changed, or was it them? Seeing their furious expressions, a deep wariness filled my eyes. I didn't want to offer another useless explanation. In their eyes, my silence was an admission of guilt. Gutamu said angrily, Yifen's house is uninhabitable now, so he'll have to stay with us for a while. Since you caused this, you're punished by giving your room to Yifen. I glanced at him, not wanting to argue. I placed the key on the table without hesitation. Fine. I'm leaving soon anyway. Then, Suluojo frowned and added, Yifen is allergic to pollen. From now on, no flowers are allowed in the house. I glanced at him again and called the butler, telling him to remove all the roses in the backyard that very night. Years ago, because I liked roses, Suluojo had planted an entire garden of them. Now that I had decided to break up with her, these symbols of our love should be removed. After all that, they still weren't satisfied. Yifen is a light sleeper and can't stand noise. Meow Meow is too loud. You're not allowed to let him out anymore. Meow Meow was the cat they had given me to cheer me up, a companion for many years. 2 hours later, staff from the pet center arrived. They sent away the cat I had raised for 5 years. Seeing how obediently I complied, Suluojo and Gutamu both felt something was off. I offered no explanation, and went upstairs alone. Looking at the empty room, I felt a strange sense of relief. I was leaving soon anyway. It was time to clean these things up. I didn't want to leave any trace of myself behind. Late at night, persistent knocking broke the silence. I was awakened, and opened the door to see Song Yifen. He held up his wrist, showing off a limited edition designer watch with a smug look. Mr. Ge, Seo Ge gave this to me this morning. I don't know much about luxury brands. Could you help me see how much this model is worth? While waiting for my departure, I wanted no contact with him, so I tried to shut the door. But the watch made my pupils constrict. It was the last memento our parents had left for my sister and me. Why would Gutamu give it to an outsider? Give it back to me. My expression changed, and I instinctively reached for the watch. Seeing me lunge, Song Yifen revealed a triumphant smile, turned, and ran. I chased after him. Just as I was about to call out, I saw him give me a smug look, spread his arms, and throw himself down the stairs. Thud. The loud noise startled Suluojo and Gutamu, who were discussing work in the study. Seeing Song Yifen lying unconscious in a pool of blood, they were horrified. Suluojo rushed downstairs and held him. Yifen, wake up. Wake up. Gutamu grabbed my arm and yelled, I knew you were just pretending to be good yesterday. Yibai, you've disappointed me so much. Song Yifen's injuries were severe and couldn't be delayed. They rushed him to the hospital. Before leaving, they forced me to apologize to him immediately. Not long after Song Yifen was wheeled into the operating room, a doctor rushed out. The patient has lost too much blood. Who has negative blood? Almost instantly, Gutamu and Suluojo both grabbed my arm. He's the one who's hurt. Why should I donate blood to him? The fall was his own act, I said, shaking their hands off. I'm not donating. Why should I? They were both furious. Tamu took off the watch and held it up threateningly. Giyibai, if you don't go, I'll smash this watch as an apology to Yifan. If you don't go and something happens to Yifan, we're calling off our engagement, they said in unison, venting their anger on me for a man who staged his own drama. I felt like I had been struck by lightning. My chest tightened, the pain so intense I could barely breathe. I looked at Tamu. My voice choked. So you really did give him our parents' memento. I then turned to Su Luojiao, my eyes red. So in your heart, all our years together mean less than one song Yifan. The two women were speechless. Before they could respond, I snatched the watch from Tamu's hand and said, word by word, remember this. This is the 96th time. I ended up donating 600 of blood. It took a long time to recover before I left the ward, my limbs weak, needing support. Tamu and Su Luojiao refused to let me leave, insisting I wait until Song Yifan woke up. It wasn't until the next morning that I finally left the hospital. As I held the railing, slowly descending the stairs, I reached an intersection and received a text from Song Yifan. How does it feel to be framed with no way to explain yourself, Gi Yibai? You'll never win against me. They're not on your side. You must be in so much pain, right? Don't worry, I've prepared a little surprise for you. Remember to check it out. A surprise. Remembering his past pranks and schemes, my heart sank. I touched the needle mark on my arm and was about to hail a cab when a car sped towards me and slammed right into me. I had no time to dodge. My body flew like a broken kite. The pain tearing through my body felt like I was being ripped apart. My consciousness faded. In a daze, I felt someone taking me to an operating room. There was a commotion around me. That Mr. Song was clearly fine yesterday, but he keeps complaining about this and that, making Seo Gyu and Miss Su book the entire hospital and summon all available surgeons to examine him. Now Mr. Gyu gets into a car accident, and there are no surgeons available. What should we do? Quick, go see if we can get a surgeon to come over. 10 minutes later, someone ran back, their voice full of helplessness. They refused. They insist on a hospital transfer and said they'll cover all the costs. A transfer. He's so badly injured, how can he survive a transfer? Exactly. Is Mr. Song's life a life, but others aren't? The sounds of arguing buzzed in my ears, but I couldn't hear anything clearly. My vision blurred. Suddenly, I seemed to see the past. I had only a mild fever, but Tamu was so worried she called in many doctors. Su Luojiao stayed by my side, even tasting my medicine with me just to coax me. But that was a long time ago. Now, I was on the brink of death, with no one by my side, not even a doctor. My eyelids felt heavy as lead, and my will to fight faded. Before I lost consciousness completely, I managed a faint whisper. The 9th time. When I woke up, I saw two faces full of remorse. Tamu rubbed the bridge of her nose, her voice filled with guilt. Yibai, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were in an accident. Su Luojiao brought a glass of warm water, wanting to help me drink, her eyes filled with a pain that was about to overflow. You were fine when you left the house. How did you get hit by a car? Remembering the text message before the accident, I opened my eyes and asked in a hoarse voice, Song Yifan. I meant that it was all his doing. Tamu and Su Luojiao's expressions froze, then darkened. Yibai, why are you still framing Yifan? He's a boy from the mountains, how could he orchestrate something like this? That's right. Yifan is still in the hospital. How would he have time to harm you? Seeing their certainty, I didn't want to waste any more words. I closed my eyes, my voice wary. I'm tired. Please leave. They wanted to explain further, but seeing my pale face, they finally left. A few minutes later, my phone rang. Everything is arranged on my end. We'll set out in about a week. I will obey the organization's orders and can leave at any time, I said. Before I could finish, the door was pushed open. Tamu and Su Luojiao walked in, looking at me with confusion. Leave. Where are you planning to go? I calmly hung up. I was talking about being discharged from the hospital. Why are you back? Su Luojiao picked up a car key that had fallen on the floor and was about to ask more when a nurse rushed in. Go, Miss Seo, Mr. Song just threw up. Watching them hurry away, I smirked. In the following days, the two women rarely appeared. When they did, they'd stay for a moment before finding an excuse to leave. I knew they were taking care of Song Yifan because he sent me photos and videos every day. Tamu personally made him chicken soup. Su Luojiao blew on each spoonful before feeding him. Limited edition sneakers bought to appease him were piled up in his hospital room. I watched silently, never replying. I left the hospital alone, without saying goodbye to anyone. Just as I was entering the code at my front door, a van screeched to a halt behind me. 4 or 5 masked men jumped out and knocked me unconscious. I don't know how long I was out. When I opened my eyes, I saw Song Yifan again. He swiped through his phone for a moment then looked at me arrogantly. Good, you're awake. I just texted Seo Geu and Miss Su that you and my accomplice have been kidnapped. Mr. Go, who do you think they care about more? Hearing this, I stared at him, wanting to ask why he kept repeating these T as carrots. But my mouth was gagged, and I could only make muffled sounds. My recovering body couldn't break free from the ropes. A few minutes later, the kidnappers in the back seat tied up Song Yefan just like me. The van door opened. I saw a rushing river ahead, and several sports cars speeding towards us from a distance. When Gu Tianmu and Su Luozhou got out, Song Yefan immediately put on a pitiful expression. Seo Ge, Miss Su, save me, did you bring the money? Su Luozhou had her men throw a dozen suitcases on the ground, her face grim. 30 million. Not a cent less. Let them go. The kidnappers looked at each other, and laughed coldly. Our condition was 30 million for one person. You can only save one. Choose. In the cold wind, I saw the faces of the two women turn ugly. Gu Tianmu was furious but didn't dare provoke them, so she could only negotiate patiently. Wait another half hour, and the other 30 million will be here. No waiting. Who knows if you've called the police? Choose one, now. The other one, we throw into the river for the fish. Song Yefan cried hysterically, struggling. A kidnapper removed his gag. Seo Ge, Miss Su, save me. I can't swim. I don't want to die. Agitated, Su Luozhou and Gu Tianwu kept trying to negotiate, raising the price to 100 million. Watching this play, I remained calm. The kidnappers refused and even started a countdown. The two women hesitated, their eyes darting between me and Song Yefan. When the count reached 3, half of our bodies were already hanging over the river. Song Yefan screamed in terror. Gu Tianwu finally broke. Save Yefan first, he saved us, we have to repay him. Su Luozhou stated her position firmly. Yefan can't swim. Yabai, don't worry, we'll save you right after. Seeing their guilt-ridden faces, unable to look me in the eye, the calmness on my face finally shattered. I had predicted this outcome when they hesitated, but hearing them say it themselves, I felt the last shred of hope in my heart extinguish. I couldn't help but laugh, my eyes filled with infinite sorrow. The choice was made. Song Yefan was pushed back onto the ground. I watched the two women run towards him and closed my eyes in despair. The cold wind cut like a knife. I wasn't bleeding, but I felt as if 1,000 blades were piercing my heart. In that moment, memories flooded my mind, my sister crying at our parents' grave, vowing to protect me forever, my girlfriend presenting me with roses and a love letter, promising to love me for life, the three of us raising our glasses on New Year's, toasting to the years ahead. Now, we were going our separate ways. The icy water pulled me under. My consciousness grew dim, my strength draining away. Smelling the familiar scent of antiseptic, I knew I was back in the hospital. My whole body felt broken. I struggled to open my eyes and met two pairs of concerned gazes. Yabai, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have let you leave the hospital alone. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Yefan was an innocent victim. Yabai, please forgive me. When you fell in the water, we immediately jumped in to save you. Yefan can't swim and he saved us. We couldn't risk it, so he had to suffer. I promise it won't happen again. I had heard these words until I was sick of them. I felt no anger, nor did I have the strength to question them. I only mumbled a phrase, so quiet it was almost inaudible. The 98th time. After a day of rest, I returned home safely. Opening the door, I saw the living room decorated with balloons and remembered it was my birthday. Su Luozhou presented a cake she had made, and Gu Tianmu, taking off her apron, had cooked a feast, celebrating my birthday just like every other year. But there was no joy on my face. I sat mechanically at the table, listened to the happy birthday song, and blew out the candles. Just as I was about to make a wish, the door burst open. A drenched Song Yefan ran in, his eyes red. Seeing the scene, he said pitifully, Seo Ge, Miss Su, so you were celebrating Mr. Gu's birthday. I was going to tell you something important, but I see you're busy. I won't disturb you. He then ran off. Without hesitation, both women stood up. I didn't stop them. I just closed my eyes calmly and continued making my wish. I wish for Su Luozhou and Gu Tianwu to be safe and happy in the future, even without me. That night I saw Song Yefan's social media post. A photo in a hospital room with the two beautiful women by his side, captioned, all I have to do is say the word, and they will drop everything for me. I calmly turned off my phone and was about to head upstairs. The next second, the door opened. Gu Tianwu and Su Luozhou walked in, their faces dark and haggard as if something terrible had happened. Thinking of Song Yefan's post from the hospital, I had a bad feeling. Sure enough, Gu Tianwu walked up to me. Yabai. Yefan has cancer. Cancer. Hearing those two words, I wasn't surprised. Not because I was cold-hearted, but because I had seen through all of Song Yefan's tricks. He was currently basking in the two women's affection. Why would he suddenly get cancer? It had to be for a purpose. Just as I thought, Go Tamu continued. During the earthquake, Yifan risked his life to save me and Luozhou. I already see him as my own brother. Now that he has a terminal illness, his only wish is to spend his last days with Luozhou and have a fake wedding. My mind went blank for a moment. My first reaction was to look at Su Luozhou, who had been silent since she entered. I agree. Su Luozhou's voice was hoarse. I understand. Saving a life is a great deed. You two can do as you please, I said nonchalantly. Seeing me agree so quickly, both Gu Tanwu and Su Luozhou looked both surprised and relieved. They didn't think much of it, just praised me a little and then hurried off. I watched their retreating figures and smiled faintly. A fake wedding. But whether it was real or fake didn't matter anymore. I was leaving. None of it had anything to do with me. After a night of rushed preparations, the wedding was held in a hotel ballroom. Though it was said to be fake, both the scale and the guests were top-notch. I sat alone in a corner, facing scrutinizing gazes from all directions, my expression indifferent. When the wedding march played, I watched Gu Tanwu walk Song Yifan down the aisle and hand him over to Su Luozhou. Amid blessings and applause, the ceremony proceeded smoothly. I sat alone in my corner, hidden by a large floral arrangement. I don't know how long I was there before I was awakened by a loud laugh. That's right. I just had to fake a cancer diagnosis and bribe a few doctors, and they believed everything. The voice became clear. I opened my eyes and met the gaze of Song Yifan walking towards me. He quickly hung up the phone, a flicker of panic on his face, but he quickly pretended nothing had happened. Why are you here? Did you hear anything just now? I looked at him, my expression cold. I didn't hear anything. And even if I did, so what? They wouldn't believe me if I told them. With that, I got up and left, ignoring Song Yifan's reaction. Of course he panicked. He spent the whole day worried that I would expose him, but my calm reaction made him even more anxious. He thought about it all night, and decided he couldn't just wait. The next day, when no one else was home, he poured several bottles of beer in the hallway and lit it on fire. Thick smoke filled the air. As the fire raged, Song Yifan cried while calling Su Luozhou. Luozhou, where are you? My bedroom is on fire, and I can't get out. Come save me. I was also woken by the smoke. I called 119, wet a towel in the bathroom, covered my nose, and ran downstairs. At the bottom of the stairs, I ran into Gu Tamu and Su Luozhou rushing in. In their panic, they didn't see me through the smoke and frantically ran upstairs. Flames were raging, and beams were falling, but they didn't retreat, charging together into the master bedroom. A few minutes later, I saw them shielding Song Yifan as they ran out. My hands clenched unconsciously. My bedroom was right next to the stairs, but they never even glanced in my direction, as if they had forgotten I was even in the house. Firefighters soon arrived and extinguished the blaze, also determining the cause. Hearing the words deliberate arson, Song Yifan, who was crying in Su Luozhou's arms, looked up at me with tear-filled eyes and a look of despair. Mr. Go, I know you're unhappy about my wedding to Miss Su, but I just wanted to fulfill a last wish. You could have just called off the wedding. Why did you have to lock me in the room and try to burn me to death? In an instant, all eyes, filled with shock and confusion, turned to me. I froze, looking up to explain, but was met with a sharp slap from Gu Tanwu. I used to think you were just childish, but I never thought you'd become so audacious as to do something so unconscionable. Have you forgotten the police uniforms your parents wore? They taught us to be righteous people. Do you feel no shame before them? The stinging slap left my face burning. The words I was about to say were caught in my throat. In 23 years, this was the first time Gu Tanwu had hit me, and it was for an outsider. I looked straight at her, emotion surging within me, my lips trembling. Su Luozhou helped Song Yifan up and looked at me with deep disappointment. I arranged this entire wedding. Yifan was always worried about your feelings, telling me multiple times that we should just forget it. I only proceeded after you agreed. Why would you act one way to my face and another behind my back? Even if you wanted revenge, you should have aimed it at me, not a terminally ill person. Facing the furious Su Luozhou and Gu Tanwu, I felt like I couldn't breathe. I took a deep breath to regain my composure. First, the firefighters only said it was deliberate arson. They didn't say I did it. Are you convicting me based on his word alone? Second, I know my parents were police officers. I have lived my life with a clear conscience, never doing anything shameful. Third, I couldn't care less if the wedding was real or fake. As for the terminal illness. Seeing me calmly refute each point, Gu Tanwu and Su Luozhou, who had been blinded by anger, began to calm down. Hearing the words terminal illness, Song Yifan, terrified they would discover the truth, pretended to faint. This sudden turn of events threw them into a panic, and they had no time to listen to my explanation. Before leaving, Gu Tanwu called the butler, her voice colder than ice. Lock the young master in the southern villa. Until he apologizes to Yifan, no one is to let him out without my order. Watching them leave, I said only one thing. The 99th time. During my confinement in the villa, I didn't step out of my room. Besides 3 meals delivered to my door, no one visited me. Time flew by, and the day I had arranged with Captain Sai arrived. That morning, as I was trying to figure out how to escape, I heard a commotion downstairs. It was Gu Tianmu and Su Luozhou bringing Song Yifan back. Soon the door that had been locked for days opened. They walked in with cold expressions. Seeing the still fading bruise on my cheek, their tone finally softened. Yifan has forgiven you, and agreed not to press charges. Don't do something like that again. Your sister and Luozhou can tolerate your stubbornness, but we cannot tolerate you doing something unconscionable. They said nothing and turned to go downstairs. Song Yifan was waiting in the living room. As soon as he saw me, he put on a pitiful look. Mr. Go, what happened before was my fault. I apologize. Hearing this, Go Tanmu and Su Luozhou both frowned. He's the one who should be apologizing to you, Yifan. You don't need to lower yourself like this. I ignored them, changed my shoes, and headed for the door. Go Tanmu suddenly had a bad feeling and rushed to stop me. Where are you going? I turned to look at her and sneered. Today is the anniversary of our parents' death. Have you forgotten? The wind on the mountain was strong, whipping my coat around. I placed a bouquet of chrysanthemums down and kowtowed a few times before the tombstone. Seeing blood trickling from my forehead, Su Luozhou and Go Tanmu couldn't bear it and rushed to help me up. That's enough. Mom and Dad know your heart. You don't need to kowtow until you bleed. It's nothing. Mom and Dad would be happy. Don't do things that hurt yourself anymore. Be good. Seeing this, Song Yifan also kowtowed and let out a yelp. Instantly, both women let go of me and rushed to his side, their eyes full of concern. Yibai kowtowing is what he should do. Yifan, you don't need to follow suit. Song Yifan blinked, forcing out a few tears. I know Uncle Gu and Auntie Gu were heroes, and I know Miss Su sees me as a brother. In my heart, I'm already a part of the Gu family, so I must kowtow. Hearing how sensible he was, Gu Tanmu froze, and then looked at me with a complicated expression. Su Luozhou sighed, bent down to brush the dust off his knees, and noticed the blood on his forehead was worsening. She hurried down the mountain to get a first aid kit. Gu Tanmu, also concerned, remembered there was disinfectant in the car and followed her. Soon, only Song Yifan and I were left at the cemetery. Without anyone else around, Song Yifan dropped his weak act and began to provoke me again. Yu Yebai, the 2 women who love you most now listen only to me. Doesn't that break your heart? So what if you're a rich young master? He's still lost to me. Just you wait. Before long, your sister, your girlfriend, everything will be mine. I ignored him, quietly feeding paper money into the brazier. Mom, Dad, I whispered, I've decided to carry on your legacy. From now on, this son will no longer exist in this world. But I believe you will understand. Bang, Song Yifan kicked over the burning brazier. Embers flew out, burning my hand. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked over and slapped him hard across the face. Song Yifan, are you insane? I'm warning you. Don't provoke me again, or I'll expose everything you've done. Song Yifan seemed shocked that I dared to hit him. After his anger subsided, a cold smile appeared. Go ahead and expose me. I'm telling you, no matter what you say, they won't believe you. What he said was true. So this time, I wouldn't say anything. I gave him a cold look and turned to leave. Song Yifan chased after me, grabbing my arm tightly. Gi Yebai, don't think you can get away so easily. I'm telling you, I hate this look of yours the most. So what if you're a young master? Soon, your sister, your girlfriend, everything will be mine. If you don't believe me, just wait and see. I tried to shake him off, but he held on tighter. As we struggled, we lost our balance and tumbled down the steep stairs together. I fell first, my head hitting the wall. Blood dripped from my hair. The intense pain made my vision go dark. I reached up to touch the wound and my hand came back covered in blood. I had no strength left, only able to lie there, gasping for breath. As light returned to my vision, I heard 2 anxious voices. Yifan, how did you fall down the stairs? You're bleeding so much, does it hurt? Don't be scared, I'll take you to the hospital right away. Song Yifan cried out in pain, tears streaming down his face. After you left, Mr. Go blamed me and Miss Su for the wedding. He said he was going to teach me a lesson, and then pushed me. Hearing this, Su Luozhou and Gu Tamu's faces darkened. They looked coldly at the person lying on the ground. Yu Yebai, just how long are you going to cause trouble? To do something like this in front of our parents' grave? Aren't you afraid they'll see? Yu Yebai, you've disappointed me so much. I'm warning you for the last time, if you dare harm Yifan again, Gu Tamu will act as if I never had this brother. Watching them shield Song Yifan, the last bit of light in my eyes died. I looked at the ground, stained red with my blood, and managed to force out a few words in response. The 100th time. Just as you wished. The 2 women frowned, not understanding what I meant, but worried about Song Yifan's injury. They didn't ask further. They helped him up and left, leaving behind a single, heartless sentence echoing in the wind. You stay here, and think carefully. When you've figured it out, we'll come pick you up. Watching their retreating figures, I shook my head with difficulty, my voice barely a whisper. I won't be coming back. I'm never coming back. Warm tears rolled down my cheeks and slowly dried, leaving no trace. When the bleeding stopped, I regained some strength and dragged myself down the mountain, a long trail of dark red blood marking the steps. At the foot of the mountain, a car was waiting. Captain Shai, smelling the blood on me, rushed over in alarm to support me. What happened? I shook my head, my voice hoarse. It's nothing. I just fell. This is the fake death, right? Seeing no obvious wounds on me, Captain Shai didn't suspect anything and nodded. He turned to me with a solemn expression. Comrade Giyabai, welcome to Operation Sunset. From this day forward, all of your previous identity information will be erased. You have no name, no identity. But you are a hero, respected by all. Police Code 14,890 is officially reactivated. Sir, I slowly raised my hand in a salute, my gaze as steady as a mountain. To serve the country with all my heart, my ambition will not change. The car door closed. A person dressed exactly like me was thrown onto the road. Suddenly, a truck spat towards it at high speed, dragging the body away. After a preliminary check on Song Yefan confirmed he had no injuries, Su Luozhou and Gu Tanmu breathed a sigh of relief. The doctor beside them looked at the medical report, puzzled. If there are no injuries, why was there so much blood? Was there another injured person at the scene? Hearing this, the image of me lying in a pool of blood flashed before the two women's eyes. Their eyelids twitched, but the thought was quickly dismissed by Song Yefan's words. After I fell, Mr. Gu took out a bag of plasma, poured it on the ground, and fell down too. The blood came from that. The doctor looked at him doubtfully, about to object, but saw Gu Tanmu's dark expression as she nodded. This isn't the first time he's done something like this. Yefan, don't worry. I will definitely get justice for you. Song Yefan was moved to tears. Su Luojiao sighed softly. Wait, ladies, the doctor at the door called out. I've checked the blood on this patient. It's not plasma, it's human blood. I advise you to bring the other injured person for an examination as soon as possible to avoid any lasting complications. So much blood, and it wasn't plasma, nor was it Song Yefan's. Could it really be Gi Yebei's? The hearts of the two women sank. Just as they were about to turn back and ask Song Yefan what had happened, they heard the supposedly sleeping man chuckle, his voice filled with pride. You have no idea how pathetic he is, toyed with like a dog by me. A few days ago, I set a fire, and he got slapped and scolded for days. Today, he fell and cracked his head open, bleeding everywhere with no one to care for him. Tell me, do you think he'll die in that cemetery? Bang, the door was kicked open. Song Yefan startled, his phone clattering to the floor. He stared in a daze at the two women who had returned. Tanyu, Luozhou, why are you back? The women's faces were so dark it looked like water could drip from them. They strode up to him, and Go Tanyu grabbed his collar, her voice sharp. He set the fire. The blood was Yebei's. Why did you lie to us? Su Luozhou's eyes were icy, devoid of their former gentleness. We treated you well. Why did you frame Yebei? Under the immense pressure, Song Yefan panicked but still pretended to be clueless. What are you talking about? How could I do something like that? Once doubt takes root, it spreads like weeds. Recalling all the recent events, the two women looked at each other, suspicion blooming in their eyes. Looking at the pitiful face before her, Su Luozhou felt no more sympathy. She called a nurse and requested a full body examination for him, starting with the oncology department. Song Yefan's face instantly turned pale. He shook his head frantically, his voice full of resistance. Luozhou, I'm fine, I don't need a checkup. If you're worried about me, let's go to Harmony Hospital for an examination. His flustered expression was a dead giveaway to Gu Tanyu. She stared at him, practically grinding her teeth. Early-stage cancer can be checked anywhere. Why do you insist on Harmony Hospital? Is it because this hospital can't find anything wrong? Song Yefan's lips trembled, unable to form words. Tears streamed down his face, but this time, no one was there to wipe them away. He was forcibly taken by the nurse into the examination room. Half an hour later, the results were out. After examination, we've confirmed that Mr. Song is in perfect health. There are no signs of cancer. Although they had anticipated it, hearing the results still made Su Luozhou and Gu Tanyu feel breathless. They collapsed onto a bench, the light gone from their eyes. The cancer was a lie. The fall was staged. The fire was his doing. The kidnapping, the car accident, the acid attack, the haircut, all of it was his doing. Recalling the events of the past year, the two women felt only a bitter, ridiculous emptiness. If everything was orchestrated by Song Yefan, did that mean they had wronged Yebei? If it was all a frame-up, why didn't Yebei say anything? Gu Tanyu's words trailed off as they both remembered the same thing. Every time something happened, he was silent. Every time they arrived, It was just in time to see Song Yifan being berated or injured. Could there really be so many coincidences in the world? At this thought, Su Lujiao felt a sudden unease. She took out her phone and saw it was 5 p.m. 5 hours had passed since they left the cemetery. In that time, he hadn't called or texted. Was he seriously injured and unconscious? Or was he truly angry at them and didn't want to talk? Dutainu was also worried and hurriedly tried to contact him, but after more than a dozen calls, his phone was still off. By the 28th call, Su Lujiao couldn't sit still any longer. She stood up and headed for the garage, Dutainu following close behind. They drove back to the villa first, and heard from the housekeeper that he hadn't been seen all day. Their hearts pounded faster as they rushed to the cemetery. On the way, they received a call from the police. "Miss Go, we've caught the suspects in the kidnapping case. They confessed that the abduction was orchestrated by a man named Song Yifan. Do you have time to come to the station to identify him?" This news was like a bolt from the blue for Su Lujiao and Dutainu. They never imagined Song Yifan could be so vicious. They had given him so much trust and affection. Why would he do these things to drive them apart? Dutainu slammed her fist on the steering wheel, a single thought in her mind: go back to the hospital and settle the score with Song Yifan. Su Lujiao, though furious, remained rational. "Let's find Yibai first. It's so cold, I'm worried about him." Dutainu nodded, accelerating. In the pitch black night, the cemetery was lit up like day. The wail of police sirens filled Dutainu and Su Lujiao with dread. Seeing the police tape, they both realized something had happened. They parked the car and ran over, only to be stopped by an officer. "There's been a traffic accident ahead. The police are investigating, and this section of the road is temporarily closed. Please turn back." Every word was like thunder in their ears. The two women stood frozen, their faces etched with disbelief. Dutainu swallowed hard. "We're looking for someone. My younger brother came here today to pay respects at a grave, and hasn't returned." Noticing their distress, the officer took out his phone, opened his photo album, and showed them a picture just taken at the scene. "Was your brother wearing a black coat today?" Seeing the tattered black coat on the screen and the familiar white chrysanthemum pin on the chest, Dutainu's vision went black. Su Lujiao quickly supported her, her heart hammering. Clinging to a final shred of hope, she asked, Where did you find this coat? Where is Yibai?" The officer sighed and shook his head. "Your brother was in a traffic accident this afternoon. He has passed away." "My condolences." "Passed away? How could that be? When they left the cemetery this afternoon, he was fine, he even spoke to them. How could he be gone just half a day later?" Dutainu and Su Lujiao couldn't accept it. They rushed past the police tape like madwomen, desperate to disprove the reality. But when they pushed through the crowd and lifted the white sheet, the mangled flesh beneath shattered their last hopes. The two once proud young ladies collapsed like children, wailing inconsolably. Their heart-wrenching cries echoed through the silent night, resonating across the mountains, lingering endlessly. Waking up to a white ceiling, Su Lujiao felt as if she had just emerged from a nightmare. She dreamt that Yibai had died, but how could that happen? She shook her head, trying to banish the thought, but when she turned and saw Dutainu curled up in a corner, vacant and lost, her throat tightened. A terrible premonition took root. Her lips trembled, wanting to ask if it was just a dream. The hospital room door opened, and several police officers walked in with a file. "Miss Su, Miss Go, after medical examination, we have confirmed the victim of the traffic accident is indeed Mr. Gi Yibai." The two women looked up simultaneously, their eyes red and swollen. "Impossible," they cried. "We just saw Yibai yesterday, he was fine. How could this happen? My parents were police officers, my brother went to the police academy. He's not like other people, he couldn't have died." The younger officers, fearing they would faint again, stepped forward to console them. The officer in charge of the case pushed up his glasses and waited for them to calm down before explaining. "We checked the surveillance footage from the cemetery. We found that Mr. Gu fell from a height and hit his head. After you two arrived, you only took one person with you. He lay alone in the cemetery for over an hour before heading down the mountain. But due to excessive blood loss, he collapsed when he reached the main road." Just hearing this, Dutainu and Su Lujiao could already imagine the horrific scene. The police showed them several photos from the surveillance camera. Seeing the bloody trail on the steps and the silhouette of a person lying unconscious on the road, Dutainu burst into tears. Su Lujiao clutched the photos, her eyes lifeless. Her mind kept replaying the last image of her supporting Song Yifan as they left the cemetery. She had glanced back. Yibai was lying in a pool of blood, motionless, silent. For a moment, she had thought about going back for him, but in the end, she didn't. That last glance had become their final farewell. After an exhaustive search, the police only recovered 60 of his remains. Dutainu and Su Lujiao felt as if their blood had frozen. A bone-deep agony spread from their hearts, racking their bodies. They had cried all their tears and could weep no more, only clenching their bloody fists, hoping physical pain could numb the emotional torment. Seeing their state, the forensic examiner sighed and handed them a document. The victim's appearance was severely damaged. We recommend you arrange for cremation soon so the deceased may rest in peace. Tainyu tremblingly signed her name in the family column. As the final stroke fell, the breath that had sustained her seemed to vanish. Su Luozhou stared at the white sheet, her voice cold and devoid of emotion. The room fell into a deathly silence. After an unknown amount of time, a secretary entered and reported softly, "Miss Su, Miss Go, we've investigated what you asked. We took photos of Mr. Som and Mr. Go to the earthquake rescue organization. They said the person who risked his life to save people that year was Mr. Go. At the time, everyone in the organization thought no one was left alive in that area, but he insisted on digging through the rubble alone for 2 days until he saved 2 people. He finally collapsed from exhaustion and needed a long time to recover." This news was a knife twisting in their hearts. The 2 women trembled, their faces gaunt and pale. The one who had saved their lives wasn't Song Yefeng, but Yabai, the one they had constantly wronged and hurt. In that moment, their hearts felt like they were being scorched by flames. But the shocking news didn't stop there. We also found the thugs who threw the acid. They confessed that everything was orchestrated by Song Yefeng. These belated truths were cruelly ironic. In the face of this tragic reality, they thought they were repaying a kindness, but they were actually repaying kindness with cruelty. Hurt again and again by his sister and girlfriend, the people he trusted most, how disappointed and heartbroken must Yabai have been. Go Tainyu and Su Luojiao didn't dare to think further. Regret and guilt washed over them like a tidal wave, drowning them completely. Before his body, for the first time, they spoke the words, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Yabai. I raised you. How could I ever suspect you of doing those things? You must have hated me so much. I shouldn't have left you at the cemetery, leaving you to die a horrible death alone. If Mom and Dad could see this from heaven, they would be heartbroken. That day, I should have taken you with me. You were clearly the one in the most pain. Why did I leave? I promised I'd take care of you for life, yet I was the one who hurt you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Desperate cries echoed in the room, but no one would ever answer them again. Yabai was buried in Nanshan Cemetery, near the Martyrs Cemetery. The environment was quiet, with few visitors. On the day of the funeral, Go Tainyu held the urn while Su Luozhou carried his portrait, walking up the mountain in a light drizzle. Apart from a few relatives, the attendees were Yabai's old friends and classmates. Looking at the black and white photo, no one could believe that such a healthy young man had passed away so suddenly. The news was so abrupt that everyone was grieving and couldn't help but ask what happened. "I saw Yabai just last month and invited him to my wedding in 2 months. He even agreed. How did I hear it was a car accident? Tainyu, what on earth happened? We watched Yabai grow up. He was your brother. He was so young and talented, and now he's gone so suddenly. As his sister, why didn't you even hold a proper memorial service for him?" Faced with the questions and accusations, Go Tainyu knelt before the tombstone. Her voice choked with anguish. "It was me. I failed as a sister. It was my fault Yabai died. If I hadn't argued with him, if I hadn't been so blind, he wouldn't have had the accident. He wouldn't have collapsed on the road." Su Luozhou also buckled under the pressure, kneeling beside her. "It's my fault too. I let Yabai down. I shouldn't have listened to Song Yefeng. When he needed me most, I stood by and did nothing. I don't deserve to be his girlfriend." Hearing their confessions, everyone fell silent. The elders of the Go family sighed, their eyes filled with infinite disappointment. "Tainyu, your parents passed away early. You raised Yabai. He was always a good, obedient boy, keeping everything to himself just to not worry you. I thought as his sister, you would understand him. How could you be so foolish? You hurt such a good child for an outsider. And Luojiao, how did you become like this?" Su Luojiao and Go Tainyu's faces grew paler. The drizzle continued to fall. The mourners left one by one. As dusk fell, the 2 still refused to leave. Staring at the face on the tombstone, they suddenly felt dizzy. They had taken this photo for him on his 18th birthday. At that time, Go Tainyu's career was taking off, and the couple's love was strong. The 3 of them had moved into a new villa, full of hope for the future. They thought the hardships were over, that life would be smooth sailing. Who knew that in just a few years, everything would turn to dust? And the ones who destroyed it all were themselves. If they had stood firmly by Yabai's side, if they had patiently investigated the truth, if they had cared for him more, things would have been different. But there are no ifs in this world, and no medicine for regret. The unspoken apologies and boundless remorse would fester in their hearts, becoming an inescapable shadow. On his 7th day locked in the psychiatric hospital, Song Yefeng was on the verge of a mental breakdown. He hadn't had a full night's sleep, and every time he woke, he faced torture from the other patients. Looking at his disfigured face in the mirror, Song Yefeng reached his breaking point. He waited until everyone was asleep, snuck to the door, and banged on it, screaming for help. But the nurses and staff ignored him completely. Here, no one cared about the pleas of a madman, especially one the higher-ups had ordered to receive special care. So, no matter how hoarsely Song Yifan screamed, he received no response. Finally, he collapsed in despair, his once clear eyes now cloudy with exhaustion and hopelessness. The cold air quickly turned his limbs purple, and his unhealed wounds oozed pus. Hearing footsteps from upstairs, the extinguished horror in his eyes flared up again. They're away. They're away. The nightmare is starting again. Song Yifan huddled in a corner, shivering uncontrollably. Just as he was at his most terrified, a shadow fell over him. He looked up and saw two familiar faces. He grabbed their legs and burst into tears. I was wrong. Tanyu, Luojiao, I shouldn't have hurt Mr. Ge. I swear, it will never happen again. Please let me go. I'll leave this city tomorrow, and never appear before you again. I swear. Seeing him, the two women felt only disgust. Gu Tainyu kicked him hard, showing no mercy. Su Luojiao's gaze was colder than ice. She pulled out a key, twirling it in her hand. You want to leave? Fine. Answer a few questions for me. If you tell the truth, we'll give you the key. If you lie even once, you can spend the rest of your life here. A flicker of hope ignited in Song Yifan's heart. I'll tell you everything. Just please, let me go. We treated you so well. Why did you try to drive a wedge between us and Yabai? Song Yifan instinctively wanted to lie, but seeing their murderous glares, he didn't dare. I was just jealous of him. He had people who doted on him. I wanted to be like him, a carefree young master. Su Luojiao clenched her fists, her voice tight. You had everything you wanted. Why did you keep harming him? I just felt insecure. I wanted to prove that I was more important to you than he was. Every time you had to choose, seeing you protect me. Those were the happiest moments of my life. Only then did I know I was also worthy of love. Every word was like a cold arrow piercing their hearts. The memories they tried to suppress became indelible scars. Complex emotions churned within them, making it impossible to remain calm. Before leaving, they asked one final question. In all this time, have you ever regretted what you did? Regret. The word seemed to confuse Song Yifan. He didn't understand why, after knowing the truth, they would ask such a meaningless question. What good was regret? Song Yifan felt no remorse, but driven by his survival instinct, he squeezed out a few tears. Of course. I really regret it. I shouldn't have harmed Mr. Ge. Even though he wasn't as good to me as you two. You're lying. This time, Ge Tainyu saw through his clumsy act. She couldn't hold back any longer, unleashing all her rage and grief on him, punching him repeatedly. Agonized screams echoed down the long, dark corridor. Su Luojiao watched coldly, silent. When Ge Tainyu stopped, she looked at the man beaten beyond recognition and threw the key down a drain outside the door. Since you can't be honest, you can stay here and rot. Seeing his only escape route cut off, Song Yifan dropped the axe. He struggled to his feet, his bloody face contorted in a snarl. Why? Why do I have to stay here, and be tortured while you get to live your lives? Why should I regret it? It's obvious you two were just too stupid. It was such a simple trick, and I played you so many times, yet you never realized. Ha ha ha. If it weren't for your indulgence, how could I have been so heartless as to harm him? All the suffering I'm enduring. You're just like me. You're both murderers. The brutal truth was laid bare. Su Luojiao and Ge Tainyu staggered back, their breathing ragged. They stared at him, their eyes burning with a fire they refused to acknowledge. You used our kindness and gratitude to turn us against Yabe. If it wasn't for you, we would never have misunderstood him. You're the real criminal, you monster. If I had known you were a wolf in sheep's clothing, I never would have saved you back then. Since you have no remorse, just wait for your karma. At this point, Song Yifan knew there was no turning back. All fear left him. He laughed maniacally. Karma. I've never believed in karma, and even if there is, Ge Tainyu, Su Luojiao, do you think you can escape it? I'm all alone. The worst that can happen is I die. But you. I curse you. May you never find peace for all eternity. These words were like salt on their wounds. They couldn't contain their anguish any longer and called the staff to take him away, to make him taste every bit of the suffering Yabai had endured. The man's screams faded into the air, but the women's pain did not lessen. They knew better than anyone that no amount of repentance or revenge could bring Yabai back. They would never have the chance to make it up to him. The night swallowed their haggard figures. The car was silent, save for their ragged breathing. Though they had left the psychiatric hospital, the curse, ever find peace for all eternity, still echoed in their ears. Ge Tainyu closed her eyes, her hands trembling in her sleeves. Su Luojiao covered her face, tears streaming through her fingers. The bone-deep pain was a relentless storm. They say time heals all wounds, but that saying was meaningless to them. Day after day, their memories of Yabai only grew clearer in their torment. The burnt-down villa was rebuilt, and they both moved back in. The furniture was arranged exactly as it was. New roses were planted in the garden. The cat they had given away was brought back. Everything seemed unchanged, but everyone knew it was all different. The young man who used to sit on the porch drinking tea and reading, who ran 5 kilometers every morning in the yard, who prepared loving breakfasts for his sister and girlfriend, would never return. Having lost the most important person, the once lively villa sank into silence. Sulujo locked herself in her room for a month. Yu drowned herself in alcohol, never sober for a single day. Occasionally, they would meet at Yibai's grave, but only in silence. Winter passed, and spring came. The wild chrysanthemums on his grave withered and bloomed again. On what would have been Yibai's 25th birthday, they sat at Nanshan all day before heading down. On the way back, Yu asked in a low voice, "I'm going to visit Mom and Dad. Are you coming?" Sulujo choked up, a complex look in her eyes. In the past, she always accompanied them to the martyrs' cemetery. But ever since Yibai died, the thought of any cemetery plunged her into a nightmare. The tattered black coat, and the bloody remains under the white sheet became a haunting obsession. She hadn't set foot in one since. But today, for some reason, she wanted to go. She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Today is Yibai's birthday. I'm sure Uncle and Aunt would want some cake too." Looking at the cake with a missing slice, Tinyu's heart itched. Swallowing her grief, she drove to the martyrs' cemetery. It was already 430 them. The staff, about to leave, grumbled impatiently. "Who comes to visit graves at this hour? So strange, one after another." Sulujo lowered her head. "We just came from Nanshan. We'll be quick. Sorry to trouble you." Hearing Nanshan, the manager's expression softened, and he said no more. They walked deep into the cemetery. As winter dusk fell quickly, visibility was poor. In the distance, they both saw a figure kneeling before a grave. Though they couldn't see the face clearly, both their hearts began to race. The figure looked so much like Yibai, the person they yearned for day and night. Whether real or an illusion, the sight moved them to tears. They quickened their pace, but the tall trees obscured their view. They ran, breathless, to the grave, but the person was gone. Only a bucket of chrysanthemums lay before the tombstone, proof that what they saw was not a hallucination. They looked at each other, a certainty in their eyes, and silently followed a side path. They chased him all the way to the parking lot but saw no one, only a single car parked there. Unwilling to give up, they ran to the car and knocked on the window. A few seconds later, the window rolled down, revealing a familiar face. The hope that had just sparked in their hearts was extinguished. Tiny forced a pained smile. "Uncle Shai, why are you here?" After sending the 2 women away, Captain Shai looked at the person in the back seat and sighed. "The operation is over. Although your identity is still a secret, Tiny is your sister, after all. Do you really not want to see her, and explain everything?" Yibai shook his head, pulling his hat down. His voice was devoid of emotion. "Yibai is dead. I am now Jian Yishan. Let the past and the people in it fade away." Hearing this, Captain Shai couldn't help but ask, "What on earth happened between you, Tiny, and Luozhou that you can't even face each other? For the 2 years you were on your mission, they thought you were dead. They're still grieving." Jian Yishan knew Captain Shai meant well, not wanting him to lose his family over his work. But for Yibai, from the moment Gu Taiyu and Su Luozhou chose to save Song Yifan during the kidnapping 2 years ago, he no longer had a home. His death was both a chance to fulfill his dream and a way to escape the past. 2 years of living dangerously undercover left him no time to dwell on old matters. Now, looking back at that dark period, he had only a few hazy impressions, but the pain remained. No matter what, he would not repeat his mistakes. "Uncle Shai, the dead can't be revived. My identity is tied to the safety of the entire special investigation team and absolutely cannot be revealed. I can't let personal feelings compromise the mission. Besides, even if they knew I was alive, what then? Our work is always dangerous. If I were to die in the line of duty one day like my parents, it would only bring them more pain. It's better this way, hidden. It does 100 times more good than harm." Captain Shai understood better than anyone. He stopped trying to persuade him and handed over keys to a car and an apartment. "The Ditchnat operation has concluded. Your identity wasn't compromised. The higher-ups believe you still have value, so they're not calling you back to the team. They've decided to have you continue undercover and wait for the right opportunity. These are the keys to the car and apartment the team has assigned you. Stay there for now and keep in touch." Used to working undercover on the front lines, Yibai had no objections. Captain Shai dropped him off, gave him a few more instructions, and left. Yibai took the keys but didn't go home. Instead, he went to a convenience store to buy daily necessities. When he came out, it had started to rain. Without an umbrella, he walked along the alley. The alley had been empty moments ago, but now 2 people were standing there. Jian Yishan didn't even glance at them, walking straight between them. Just as he passed, Su Luozhou, her face haggard, reached out and grabbed his shoulder, her voice trembling with tension. "Yibai." He looked up at her, frowning in annoyance. "Who are you? Let go." Don't block my way. The unfamiliar tone and cold gaze made Su Luojiao and Gu Tainyu shudder, but they clung to any shred of hope, refusing to let go. I know it's you, Yabai. I'm your sister. Don't you recognize me? Startled by their agitated state, Yabai dropped his things and jabbed them with his elbows. They stumbled back a few steps, and he turned and ran. The two women were stunned, then instinctively gave chase. But seeing a face so different from their memories, the hope that had just flickered in Su Luojiao's heart died completely. Her eyes became vacant. Gu Tainyu also couldn't believe it. Her gut told her the person at the cemetery had to be Yabai, but the man she found now, apart from a similar build, had a completely different face and personality from her brother. While they were still dazed, the store owner had already called the police. 10 minutes later, all four of them were at the station. With the police present, Yabai wasn't afraid. He recounted his story with righteous indignation. Today, I just walked out of the convenience store when these two thugs blocked my way. They kept saying I was their brother and wanted to take me away. I knew they were up to no good. Watching his exaggerated performance, Gu Tainyu and Su Luojiao grew even more disappointed. They didn't want to admit it, but they had to. This person named Jian Yishan was not Yabai. In the past, no matter how much Song Yifan framed him, Yabai would never be this rude, uneducated, and loud. Yabai, oblivious to their thoughts, slammed his hand on the table. That's what happened, officer. You have my statement and the surveillance footage. You have to get justice for me. The officer took down every word, then turned to Gu Tainyu and Su Luojiao. What is your explanation? We were visiting a grave and saw him paying respects. We thought he was an acquaintance, so we followed him to ask. It was just a misunderstanding. Hearing this, Yabai grew even angrier, glaring at them. A misunderstanding. That's hilarious. I don't even know you, yet you keep calling me brother. Can't you even recognize your own brother? Are you blind? Being your brother must be 8 lifetimes of bad luck. These insults enraged the two women. They stood up in unison, clenching their fists. Watch your mouth. Yabai is not a scoundrel like you. Just as they were about to argue, Captain Shai arrived and explained it was all a misunderstanding. The police, seeing this, waved them all off. Captain Shai led the three of them out of the station, with Yabai still muttering, "Why are they letting this go? Those two women were clearly harassing me. They should have been detained." Captain Shai looked at him with a helpless expression. To forgive others is to forgive yourself. It's been cleared up as a misunderstanding, so let it go. It's late, go home. He then hailed a taxi and pushed Yabai inside. Watching the car disappear, Captain Shai turned to Gu Tainyu and Su Luojiao with a gentle smile. Don't be angry with the kid. Seeing the man who was her parents' best friend, who had cared for her since she was a child, defending such a vulgar person, Gu Tainyu felt a prickle of annoyance. Uncle Shai, who is this person? Why did you bring him to my parents' grave? Captain Shai had already prepared an explanation on the way. Yishan's family were fishermen. Before your parents passed, they saved Yishan's father. He's always been grateful, so he comes to pay his respects every year. 2 years ago, his father had a cerebral hemorrhage, and before he died, he was still talking about it. Yishan promised he would come every year. He happened to be there when I was, so I brought him along. The explanation was reasonable and sounded credible, but for some reason, both women felt something was off, though they couldn't pinpoint what. Captain Shai, not wanting them to dig deeper, added, although Yishan is a bit raw around the edges, he's not a bad person. His family circumstances were difficult, he didn't get much education and lived with his grandmother. His parents passed away one after another in recent years. It's a sad story. For my sake, please be generous and let it go. Hearing this, they were reminded of Yabai's own tragic fate, and the anger in their hearts subsided. They nodded silently. Captain Shai knew who they were thinking of and sighed, patting their shoulders. Yabai has been gone for 2 years. The living must look forward. Don't grieve too much. He's in heaven with his parents looking after him. He wouldn't want you to be stuck in the past. They were clearly words of comfort, but they only made Su Luojiao and Gu Tainyu's hearts heavier. They looked up at the starless night sky, their expressions complex. If the dead truly have souls, would their parents be utterly disappointed to see how they had hurt Yabai? And would Yabai, who died in despair, ever forgive them? Sorrow and pain washed over them like a tide, drowning them. They didn't know what to say, only turning silently to get in the car. The ride back to the villa was silent. Looking at the dark rooms, they both froze. If Yabai were still alive, he would definitely run out to the balcony and wave to us when he saw us coming home. Today is his birthday, and he didn't even get to eat his cake. That night, Su Luojiao tossed and turned, unable to sleep. The image of the man at the cemetery haunted her. Was it really not Yabai? Dian Yishan. Dian Yishan. She muttered the name until dawn, finally unable to bear it any longer, and texted her secretary. As the sky lightened, she went downstairs, wanting some fresh air. The moment she stepped outside, she saw Gu Tainyu standing in a corner. They looked at each other, both with dark circles under their eyes. Where are you going? Go time you asked. Su Luojiao paused. She didn't know where she wanted to go, only that she instinctively wanted to escape the house filled with memories. Nowhere. Just for a walk. She got in her car and drove aimlessly, her mind in a jumble. When she came to her senses, she realized she was back in yesterday's alley. It was an old residential area with many small shops. The breakfast stalls were already open, steam rising from bamboo steamers. Through the haze, she saw him. Yabai Dianyishan was wearing a hat, calmly walking downstairs. He threw a bag of trash in the bin, bought a steamer of buns, and went back up. The whole process took less than 10 minutes, but Su Luojiao was frozen. After he was gone, as if possessed, she got out of the car and followed. Walking past the trash bin, she glanced at it and was about to move on when, 5 steps later, her exhausted brain suddenly clicked. She turned back and saw a candle sticking out of the trash bag. Her gaze locked onto it. Yesterday at the police station, she had seen Jian Yishanzide. He was 23, his address was a small fishing village, and his birthday was June 19. Captain Sai had said he was an orphan. So why would he buy a birthday cake? In that moment, Su Luojiao felt she had grasped a clue. She rushed after him, up to the 4th floor. Just as she was about to open the door, the little girl from next door came out, smiling brightly at him. He smiled back. Nana, thanks for the birthday cake yesterday. It was delicious. One sentence shattered the suspicion that had just formed in Su Luojiao's mind. She gave a bitter laugh and turned to go downstairs. She didn't hear the little girl's cheerful reply. Your cake was yummy too. We have the same birthday. What a coincidence. Let's celebrate together from now on. Yabai bent down, patting the girl's head, and said a few more words before going inside. The moment the door closed, he dropped his disguise and let out a sigh of relief. The fragrant buns filled his empty stomach. My cat stretched out on the sofa. He remembered the old lady's sweet way of recommending the buns and couldn't help but smile. After leaving the police station yesterday, he had stopped by a bakery to buy a cake, only to run into Nana, the neighbor's little girl, who was also celebrating her birthday. The mischievous girl had asked if it was his birthday too, and upon confirmation, insisted they celebrate together. He couldn't refuse the family's warm invitation. In just one night, the little girl had become attached to him. Knowing he was new, she even recommended many delicious local foods. After so long dealing with treacherous criminals, returning to normal life and meeting such kind neighbors truly made him happy. Whatever the future held, at least for now, he had the peaceful life he had always longed for. That was enough. He bought many household items and cleaned the apartment. Due to his special identity, he rarely went out, and when he did, he was heavily disguised. But no matter how careful he was, he discovered he was being followed. And the followers were Su Luojiao and Ge Tianyu. After the encounter at the cemetery, he never expected them to find him. To avoid suspicion, he had made a scene at the police station. Captain Sai had later contacted him, saying they definitely wouldn't suspect anything anymore. But for the past few days, he kept seeing a luxury car, completely out of place in this old neighborhood, parked outside his window. Occasionally, when he went out to buy water, he could feel probing eyes on him. 2 years of undercover work had taught him how to be a convincing thug. He believed Su Luojiao and Ge Tianyu wouldn't recognize him. But given the current situation, they must have discovered something to be appearing so frequently. To ensure his safety, he called Captain Sai. They discussed a plan, and only then did he feel at ease. A few days later, he stayed home. January 18th was the death anniversary of his adoptive father, Hyundashun. He woke up early to go to his hometown to pay respects. Just after he finished, he was cornered by a group of thugs. Damn you. You tricked me out of 3,000 yuan last time, and then disappeared. I thought you'd never dare to come back. Ganyashin, you've got guts. They surrounded him. Yabai glanced at them, casually picking up a wooden stick from the ground. Tricked you. Didn't you lose it to me? It's only 3,000 yuan. Zhao Biao, you've got all these guys, and you can't even afford that. Humiliated in front of his underlings, Zhao Biao was furious and didn't want to waste any more words. He raised his hand to teach Yabai a lesson, but before the stick could fall, a voice stopped him. The group turned to see 2 elegantly dressed women staring at them coldly. A group of men ganging up on one person. Aren't you ashamed? Zhao Biao scoffed, looking at them with a vicious expression. Who are you? Get lost, or I'll beat you too. At his command, the thugs rushed forward. Taking advantage of the chaos, Yabai slipped away without hesitation. After 5 minutes of brawling, one of the thugs shouted, "Boss, he's gone." That brat ran away. The group immediately abandoned the 2 women and chased after Yabai. The women, tense until now, finally relaxed. Looking at the bruises on each other's faces, Ge Tianyu and Su Luojiao were stunned for a moment before realizing Yabai had escaped while they were fighting. Their faces darkened. For days, they couldn't forget what happened at the cemetery. Logic told them Jian Yishan wasn't Yabai, but their subconscious urged them to follow him. He rarely went out, but just seeing his room with the always drawn curtains brought a small comfort to their tormented hearts. They weren't looking for proof that Jian Yishan was Ge Yebai, they were just trying to soothe their own souls. Driving back to the old apartment complex and seeing the light on in his room, they both breathed a sigh of relief. Gu Tainyu rolled down the window and lit a cigarette. Su Luozhou held a crumpled file, reading it intently. It was the information her secretary had gathered on Jian Yishan. It was clearly the life of a stranger, yet she had read it countless times, memorizing every detail. She didn't know why she cared so much about such an ordinary person. She couldn't find any resemblance to Ge Yebai in him, but just reading the words, the image that appeared in her mind was of Yebai as a child. This strange condition made her think she was delusional, but when Gu Tainyu mentioned she experienced the same thing, Su Luozhou knew it wasn't just her imagination. They had seen a psychologist, who diagnosed them with severe depression. You were likely traumatized by Mr. Gu's death and didn't receive timely psychological treatment, so your condition worsened. At this time, you met someone with a similar build at the place where he had his accident. Out of your deep longing, your subconscious has projected Mr. Gu onto Mr. Jian, leading to a dependency. Although the dead cannot be revived, for the sake of your health, I recommend you interact more with Mr. Jun. His presence is beneficial for your treatment, and may help you escape the shadow of the accident, and start a new life. Recalling the doctor's advice and what happened today, Su Luozhou looked at Gu Tainyu. Tainyu, if Jian Yishan is beneficial for our treatment, why don't we ask him to live with us? Maybe it was fate that we met him. Even though he's not Yebai, his life is also pitiful. Let's consider it as accumulating good karma for Yebai. Gu Tainyu agreed. Although he has some issues, he's not inherently bad. Our parents saved his father, so we should also help him so he doesn't go down the wrong path and disappoint our parents' hopes. They discussed it for a while and then went upstairs to knock on his door. They knocked for half an hour with no response. Finally, the little girl next door couldn't stand it anymore and yelled a few things, and only then did Yebai crack the door open, his head peeking out warily. Are you two not done yet? Get lost, or I'm calling the police. Hearing him, Gu Tainyu's temper flared again. Su Luozhou quickly pulled her back and said patiently, we want to talk to you today. He glared at them. Talk about what? About you stalking me. Let's go to the police station, and see if you can get away with it this time. He tried to slam the door, but Su Luozhou blocked it with her hand. Jian Yishan showed no mercy and shut the door hard. Her entire hand immediately swelled up, turning purple. Seeing her injured, Gu Tainyu couldn't help but shout, Jian Yishan. We saved you, don't push your luck. Who asked you to save me? Weren't you just meddling? And now you want to use it to threaten me? No way. Seeing them about to argue again, Su Luozhou gritted her teeth against the pain. We didn't come here to argue. We just want to discuss something with you. If you don't give us a chance, those thugs from before might come looking for you tomorrow afternoon. Hearing this, Yebai's expression changed. He stared at them, almost grinding his teeth. What is it? Spit it out. Knowing he had agreed, Su Luozhou wiped the sweat from her forehead, her voice a little weak. It's not convenient here. Let's go to a tea house. In the quiet tea house, hearing their request, Yebai looked perplexed. Hire me to treat you. I didn't even graduate middle school. Are you crazy? Aren't you afraid I'll kill you? You don't have to do anything. Just move into the villa and live with us, Gu Tainyu said. The suspicion on Yebai's face deepened. Do you take me for a 3-year-old? You think I'll believe such a lame trick? There's no such thing as a free lunch. Su Luozhou took a deep breath and handed him her business card to prove her identity. He didn't even look at it, throwing it straight into the trash. I can make one of these too. Gu Tainyu immediately pulled out a bank card. There's 8 million in here. He took it, weighed it in his hand, then snapped it in two with a sneer. Trying to use me for money laundering. I'm not that stupid. They offered countless other conditions, all of which he refused. Gu Tainyu lost her patience. What will it take for you to believe this? He took a sip of tea, crossed his legs, and pointed to the tallest skyscraper outside the window. Buy that building, and I'll consider it. A few days later, when they brought the ownership documents, he still wasn't interested. I heard the Union Temple is very effective. I haven't been sleeping well lately. Go pray for a peace talisman for me. Remember to be sincere. That afternoon, a video of Su Luozhou and Gu Tainyu kowtowing their way up the mountain to pray went viral. Seeing their bruised and bloody foreheads in the video, Yebai's expression flickered. Memories buried deep in his mind resurfaced, the injustice of being framed, the despair of being abandoned time and again. Tears and blood flowed endlessly, all appearing vividly before him. He clutched his numb heart, gasping for breath to soothe the discomfort. He didn't understand why they wouldn't give up even after he made such unreasonable demands. Just because he looked a little like her brother. What a ridiculous reason. If they cared so much, why didn't they cherish him when he was alive? Now that he was long dead, they were seeking comfort from a stranger. It was laughable. So, when they brought the hard-earned peace talisman to him, he was unmoved. Nice, but it's stained with blood. Unlucky. I don't want it anymore. You can have it back. He threw the talisman at them and turned to leave. Gutainu angrily grabbed his arm. Why do you keep testing our sincerity? What are you still not satisfied with? He stopped and looked her up and down. I'm not satisfied with you too. Can't you see? It's rare to meet someone I dislike so much at first sight. The words were clearly spoken by Jian Yishin, but somehow, Su Luzhou and Gutainu felt it was Ge Yebai standing before them. In that moment, the guilt and pain washed over them again, tormenting them. Their faces turned pale, and they let their hands fall. He paid them no mind and walked away. Night fell, shrouding the world in darkness. They fell uncontrollably into an abyss. He thought that after those harsh words, the two proud women would stop bothering him. But things were far from what he expected. Before, he would only occasionally see them. Now, they had bought the apartment next door and moved in. He truly didn't understand what they were thinking, but he would not compromise. Although the Tichenhat operation was over, and he had been withdrawn, beneath the calm surface, an undercurrent was stirring. Next month, tomorrow, or even the next second, he could be called upon by the organization again. He was ready to continue the fight. So, to everyone else, he continued to play the role of a boastful thug. Towards Gutainu and Su Luojiao, he maintained a cold and indifferent attitude. No matter how much he mocked them, they persisted, constantly trying to please him. He ignored them. The gifts they gave, he threw away or gave to others. They offered to find him a job. He said he didn't want to work. They invited him on a trip. He shut the door in their faces. Time passed, and he gradually adapted to his current life, also noticing a change in Gutainu and Su Luojiao. They seemed addicted to being rejected. The more he rejected them, the more determined they became. The way they looked at him grew stranger. Occasionally, he would even hear them call out his old name by mistake. Yabe. It had been a long time since he had heard anyone call him that. He froze for a second before quickly regaining his composure. After steadying himself, he uncharacteristically took the initiative to speak to Gutainu, who had just called him by the wrong name. I'm not whatever Ibe you're talking about. If you're sick, go see a doctor. Don't cause trouble here. He slammed the door and left. As he turned, the movement was so abrupt that the necklace hidden under his collar fell out. Seeing the pendant, Gutainu's expression changed instantly. If she wasn't mistaken, the stone on the pendant was identical to the one on the watch his mother had left him, something he had always cherished. After the accident, Gutainu had searched everywhere along the highway, inside the house, but never found the watch. Why did Jian Yishin have one just like it? In that moment, the thought she had denied countless times that Jian Yishin was Ge Yebai surfaced again. This time, her intuition was stronger than ever. She rushed after him, wanting to find more evidence, but the night was too dark, and she couldn't find him. Her disappointment was overshadowed by excitement. She clenched her fists and returned to the 4th floor, eager to share the news with Su Luojiao. Seeing Yebai disappear, he stood up from the bustling night market stall and got into a car parked by the road. The car door closed, and he reported the recent situation to Captain Shai, emphasizing that Su Luojiao and Gutainu might be suspicious. After listening, Captain Shai nodded, his gaze deep. No. I'll handle it. Don't worry. Yebai breathed a sigh of relief. Does the operation start tonight? Captain Shai handed him a file. Operation Track Fight begins at 10 p.m. tonight. Your identity is still Jian Yishin. Your code name is changed tonight at dawn. The next morning, Su Luojiao and Gutainu were awakened by noise in the hallway. They jolted up from the sofa and ran to the door. Opening it, they saw a group of people moving furniture out of the apartment next door. They were stunned and quickly tried to stop them. What are you doing? He's not home. What right do you have to touch his things? The landlord glanced at them, rolling his eyes. He only rented for 2 months. He's moved out. I'm cleaning up for the next tenant. The news hit them like a ton of bricks. They never expected that in just one night, he would vanish from their sight. They had stayed up all night because of their suspicion and couldn't accept this reality. They tried every way to find out where he went, but neither the landlord nor the neighbors knew anything. The list of passengers entering and leaving the city didn't have the name Jian Yishin. He had disappeared like a drop of water in the ocean. They were just one step away from the truth, but the only person who could give them hope had vanished. This outcome was a devastating blow to Su Luojiao and Gutainu. They reverted to the state they were in right after Yebai's death, living like zombies, devoid of life. In their grief, their only solace was to tell themselves that Jian Yishin was Yebai. He had just left because he didn't want them to find out. But this mental anchor gradually weakened over time. They turned the entire city upside down but couldn't find him. They could only lock themselves in the small apartment they had bought, waiting hopelessly for his return. Day after day, the living room filled with empty liquor bottles and cigarette butts. Waking up from a drunken stupor, Su Luojiao's head throbbed. The alcohol on the table was gone, and her throat was parched. She went to the bathroom, and as she was about to turn on the faucet, a strand of hair in the corner caught her attention. Picking it up, her muddled mind suddenly cleared. She woke up Gutainu, and they rushed to the hospital, straight to the genetics department. The wait was agonizing. Every second stretched into an eternity. In her extreme excitement, Gu Tainu even contacted the one person who might know his whereabouts, Captain Shai. When Captain Shai arrived at the hospital after work, the test results were also ready. Stamped on it was the confirmation, no biological relationship. Seeing those words, the last thread of sanity in Su Luojiao and Gu Tainu's minds snapped. Tears streamed down their faces, their bodies trembling violently. They tore the report to shreds, like madwomen. Watching the pieces fall like snow, a flicker of pity crossed Captain Shai's eyes. The night Yebai left, he had had someone clean the apartment. This strand of hair was deliberately left behind by Yebai, just to sever the last shred of suspicion in their hearts. Although the result was painful for them, for the sake of the mission, every sacrifice was worth it. With that conviction, his sadness quickly passed, and he returned to being the calm, rational captain. He walked over to them and told them the truth. Tiny Luojiao, Yebai has been dead for 2 years. Don't place your feelings on a fanciful theory. Try to move on. His calm, strong voice offered no comfort. Su Luojiao and Gu Tainu knew better than anyone that they could never move on. The world they inhabited was shrouded in darkness, and they would never see the dawn again. Because their moon had set long ago. Our indifference, whether intentional or not, can push our loved ones into the abyss of despair. Learn to listen, learn to understand, and learn to cherish those around you before it's too late. Because sometimes, regret only comes when the loss is permanent. Like Gu Tainu and Su Luojiao, they were forever trapped in the darkness of their torment, priced too high for mistakes that could never be undone. Use arrow up and arrow down to select a turn, enter to jump to it, and escape to return to the chat.